Hello, how are you all?
Hello.
So happy to be here.
Hola,
Hola. So a great pleasure to be here today. Thankful to Global Toronto for this space for chatting and meeting and sharing ideas and visions. We're going to be this afternoon with Cris Derksen, a Canadian cellist, classical cellist with also indigenous. Her music blends indigenous, classical, and also electronic. We're going to be with Andrew Kwan as well from Kwan Management. And for almost 30 years, Andrew has been managing and repping great Canadian classical artists. And also Alfredo Caxaj, the artistic director from London Sun Fest, an amazing festival in London, Ontario. And we are here to speak about showcasing, and more so showcasing during this strange moment for the world and for music. I think it's very interesting to have the three of you and your vision showcasing it such an important part in getting your music seen out there and most importantly seen by decision makers in festivals and conferences. And I think the three players that normally are involved in a showcase are here, right? The festival, the manager, and the artist. We're just missing the conference or organizer in that case. And so I think it would be great to hand it to you immediately. Maybe starting with Cris. I think it would be great to hear a little bit about your previous experience with showcasing and what it has meant, and also how you feel the game has changed and what's the current reality. All yours. Oh, I can't hear you, Cris.
There we go. There we go. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I look at like showcases as building relationships and maintaining relationships. So I look at it as like how I create friendships that then turn into work for me. And it's so vitally important to go to those showcases and to like see those people that you're friends with, like Andrew. Like we've hung out before at IAMA, and it's like doing this panel, it's like a remembrance and building that relationship again and building those connections. And that's so vitally important in the work that we do and getting the jobs and in maintaining our practice, you know? Currently though, I'm A-okay with having a year topsy-turvy, and having a year at home for me as a composer and a musician is like pretty incredible. I think there's like some really amazing things we can do in Canada, and especially with things like BLM and how we can diversify our industry, and take this year to think about that. So that's what I think this year is about for me, anyways.
What about you, Andrew?
Thank you. Honored to be with such esteemed panelists today regarding this topic. As a manager of coming up to my 30th year, the showcase, and Cris used that term showcase as the actual event. But if I want to narrow it down to those key 15 minutes of performance, the showcase has evolved like our industry. There was a time when the showcase was simply a live audio snapshot of what you had to offer. Today, those 15 minutes must capture your personality, your music, and your narrative, your story, so that people like Alfredo, who has to take a risk to engage somebody, has an overall sense. We can listen to someone play for 15 minutes with a streaming or a recording, but those 15 minutes have to tell the presenter, the buyer, the festival, the venue, who you are and what is the story behind your program. This is the modern day live press kit, if you want to call it that. So, you don't have the opportunity of a full 55-minute set to tell your story, and you're presenting your show to some of the most critical audiences that you'll ever perform for. These are experience. You look at one season of Sunfest and how many artists does Alfredo put on the stage? What is his knowledge base? It's an encyclopedia of the world. But you've got 15 minutes to convince him. Don't just play. Don't assume that your apex of the show, the climax of your story, can take 55 minutes, because at the same time, it is such a honor to be selected. How many people applied for Global Toronto, and there are only 20 artist slots available. Normally at conferences around the world, the success rate is 1 in 10. You cannot afford to think of it as, 15 minutes, that's four songs in my set. I can just play that in my sleep and walk on and just play that. It's a science. It is something which one has to carefully think about into the messaging, and then snapshot repertoire pieces, music, songs that they feel will capture the listener within that 15 minutes. And that's the evolution I have seen in the past 3 decades of attending hundreds of conferences and having seen thousands of showcases.
Alfredo.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks so much for making me part of this incredible panel here with my colleagues, and thanks to Global Toronto for putting this inspirational conference, especially during this difficult time for all of us. It's truly inspiring and give us tremendous energy to continue working and to continue doing what we truly love to do, bringing arts and culture to our communities. I second, the points of my colleagues here. There is no question that, in any conference or any market, for me personally, one of the most crucial elements of any of those activities is precisely when we come to the showcase. Because that's exactly the moment where you, as in my case, as a presenter, as a programmer, as a festival director, I will have the opportunity to see live and in a very direct context, the music, the energy, the message of the artist, and that's exactly what you can see. Wow, yeah, this is amazing. This can work for us. This actually is gonna enhance tremendously our artistic programming and gonna make our festival even better. So showcasing for me it's truly one of the most essential tools at this time. Even with the evolution of the technology at these moments, I personally feel that there is nothing better than live music. And when you are there with the energy of the audience, that's exactly when you really feel connected with the artist. And in our case, as a festival director, not only me, but all of festival directors, programmers, presenters, it's also a real challenge for us because there are so much talent out there. There's so many incredible musicians that you really need to be struck out by the presentation, by the performance, so that you can really say, yeah, this is the artist that we are looking for. This is how we be able to bring those artists into our communities. So essentially, showcasing an essential and fundamental piece from my own perspective.
Amazing. So, in a way, different points of view, but at the same time, I think a lot of things in common. No, as a showcase, as that moment where it's the moment for everyone to prove themselves in a way. To from the management perspective, the opportunity for the artist to be seen, for the artist to show how diverse and powerful the work can be, and for the festival, it's a guarantee, even sometimes of that the artist exists and can deliver. And it's such an interesting moment and so important. So bringing it to this year, right, where showcases in like live showcases have become impossible for maybe artists or managers that are watching, or for festivals who might be in the same situation. Do you feel there is a new language happening? Do you feel we're on hold? Do you feel would you commit to an act just by seeing it digitally? And how do you think that might change the game in the future? You know, we eat, live, and breathe around live, and how do you hoping, of course, it's not the case, but let's say this happens for 3 or 4 more years, and festivals are going digitally. What would be the new concept of showcase? What will be showing? What are the skills? How is it differently? How do you feel about that? Who wants to jump in first?
Yeah, I think it's like good to pivot at this moment, and jump online, but you have to have the right tools to do so. You have to, like, it's like a pretty steep learning curve actually, but it never ever ever I will cover the being live aspect of a showcase and of a performance, because you're in your living room by yourself singing your songs to yourself. It's like there's like no the energy is way different, and you can like fake it and try and keep it up, but really you're by yourself singing songs to yourself in your living room.
I totally agree. I agree with Chris. It's so often, and we are in the business of.
I am losing you, Andrew. Are we all losing him? Yeah.
Yeah.
So while he comes back, okay. While he comes back, Alfredo, being at a showcase, I've never been at a showcase as a presenter, but I've been as a manager and oh, there you are. We lost you for a second, Andrew.
Yes,
please continue.
I can see that. Sorry. As you say, we are in the business of the live performing arts, and artists need the energy to feedback to create that experience. It's what happens in the room that night, and a showcase is just a shortened performance in that sense. So, as we are separated because of the pandemic, the digital showcase also has to mimic a live showcase. It has to capture those 15 minutes that you would. Alfredo's time and festival programmers' time today is as complex as when we were able to see each other. So don't expect that Alfredo will sit there. Don't expect that a festival programmer will sit there for a 2-hour live performance. And what Cris also said is so true. Here we are in our living rooms, in our basements, and we're trying to perform something. We are musicians, we are not actors, and here we are thrown into a video representation of who we are. We have to take a lot of those skill sets as a visual person and implement that into our performance skills. So whether it's better audio microphone recordings, better visual background, we have to incorporate all of that. So it has actually made our jobs a little bit tougher.
Alfredo, I am really curious about your impression, because when you're in a showcase I've never been in a showcase as on the presenter's end. I've always been with the artist, and your normal picture is a room with a lot of poker faces, right? You have a lot of presenters who are in overwhelmed by the amount of content. They can't say too much. They don't want to be too visible sometimes. And there are some magical showcases that break that ice, right? Where you see like poker faces not allowed anymore. But I feel presenters are very careful of their space. And I have to say, hands down, in all the conferences I've been, I have to say that you are the friendliest presenter in the world. Like I've seen you literally with your very famous little white towel, dancing in the middle of the room, being very, very involved. And then your festival is huge. I've been there a couple of times, and it's a really big audience, and it's a really big fiesta. And so I think you are a total symbol of live. I know this year digital edition was very successful and very beautiful. But you really are a live guy. So how do you feel now when people tell you, can you be here between 4:15 and 4:30 in a Zoom room watching me with my kids showcasing? How is your heart feeling about that?
Juan, I think one of the things that has really distinguished us as a festival from many others is precisely that we are really open to listen and to be with the artists at any moment. When we go to any conference, any market, most of the time people are lining up to see us because they know that when they come with the product, with the CD and so on, we want to welcome them with our open heart because, can you imagine the artist working so hard, trying to finish a product, bringing their CD, and then you tell them, sorry, but too much weight. We cannot take this product with us. No, it doesn't happen like that to us. So for us, it could be 15 minutes, it could be half an hour, it could be 45 minutes. But we want to dedicate this time to the artists because I think artists are really the heart of our festivals. There's no question about that. So I perfectly understand that right now all of us are facing difficulties, and I think one of the questions was if we can book artists who do showcases virtually. Yes, absolutely, that's possible. We've seen already in this conference, artists trying to do their best, showcasing their work in the best possible way with the different tools that they have available at this moment, and it's been a remarkable experience. And I think we as programmers and presenters, we also have to adapt into this new reality and really work in conjunction with other artists. That's what you tools that you have. Yeah, perfectly fine. Let's do it. I think the most important thing in a showcase for me is that, especially when the artists are in the process of submitting their materials, I think it's important when they submit their materials, they present that, and if they are selected to showcase, it is important for them to showcase what they are submitting, because sometimes that's a big problem with showcases that, I've been part of many juries in different international markets, and sometimes we selected the artists because we love what they presented, what they submitted, and all of a sudden, when you see them at the stage, it's a totally different thing. So that's a very crucial point. But, I remember the experience of one Cuban Canadian artist that was selected to showcase Womix, for example. Her record was unbelievably incredible with so many international guests and so on. And I believe because of that reason, she was selected to showcase. And she created a lot of expectations in the audience. That was on Womix in Spain, one of the versions there. And suddenly, we had this great number of people waiting for her performance, and she showed up with a drummer, bass, and keyboard player, and the whole thing that everyone was so used to listening completely. So in a matter of 15 minutes, the whole audience was pretty much gone. So that's very crucial. So basically, it is important for us that that particular aspect, the artists really come and the way that they are gonna project themselves into the different festivals. And absolutely, we have to work under these difficult circumstances that I really hoping, I have a good faith that this is only a transitional period, and eventually we'll be back to our regular and normal activities. But in the meantime, we as programmers, artistic directors, we also have to adapt to that.
Great. We have some interesting questions coming in, and I'm going to try to mix those with some of the subjects that we should cover before the hour is done to make it more interactive in general. I think it's pretty clear that we are 4 live junkies here chatting, right? Like all the opinions have been gravitating to the power and the adaptability, yes, but the difference between live and digital. But I'm also sure there are some audiences and artists that are living in both spaces even before COVID in a very significant way, and maybe are looking at this moment as a moment of opportunity, and maybe we'll be looking at opinions that are defending live too much as something that might not be the same. So here are some questions that are coming that I think it's great to go through. Maybe starting with Cris, because Cris, you referenced that idea of being in the living room. We have a question here that says, do you not think that good performance and musicianship translates with or without an audience? And another one that's pretty good, pretty similar also, and maybe good to bundle those. And this is an opinion and a question. It says an audience is not what makes music good. Good music is good on its own, no? So to recap, the first one is, do you think that good performance and musicianship translate with or without an audience? And then also if an audience is really part of what makes the music good, or if it's the music on its own.
Like, definitely it's about the music. Like, if the music is good, the music is good. But here's the thing is, like, as a performer, you have to train yourself. You have to, like, as Andrew was talking about, you have to, like, kind of be an actor at this point of the thing, where you have to, and it's a practice. You have to train yourself how to be in front of the camera, how to, like, engage with the audience, with the camera, like, look at the actual lens instead of looking at your face. You know, it's a new practice for some, and it's an old practice for others. You know, like, for me, it's definitely was a new practice, and I got I had to learn quick, basically, of how to engage myself with an audience that I could not see or necessarily feel. So yes, of course, good music, it is good music. That's not going to change whether or not the music's good. Is it like, can you relate your music? Can you relate your personality to a presenter on screen instead of live? It's a whole different game, really. And it's like about getting the tools. Like, I got a new camera setup. I had to relearn. I knew how to record. I recorded myself so many times, but recording live is a whole different game. So, like, it's all about, and again, the pivot. It's about how fast can you pivot at this moment, really, for me.
Yeah, Andrew, it's so unclear where all of this is going, right? But I think it's evident that the artists that at this moment are having that capability of adaptation that Cris was talking about are definitely in a privileged position in a way, because festivals themselves are figuring out if they're going to do live editions or if they're going to do digital editions. So having the feel that you're working with an artist who's able to deliver on both, and if the festival is digital, is going to be able to do something digitally in a way that's effective. So as a manager with your roster, are you recommending artists to make the jump and to explore other avenues and to become familiar? Are you letting them live their process as they are? How are you reacting to it?
I think in March, at the beginning of the pandemic, the terminology was during these unprecedented times. And I think here we are in July, and we're still going through new territories. People are still figuring a lot of things out. There's obviously there can be another panel session about the talk of monetization through the digital platform, and that's a very tricky conversation. So keeping it within the showcase conversation, and I look at the evolution of the conference. Years ago, the conference showcase was held inside a banquet hall in a hotel room, and that started to evolve into presenting them in a professional venue, in a soft seat theater, because that's where the music is. That's where, and then from there, the conferences even evolved to being mini festivals, so that festival programmers can see what it is. What worries me with the virtual showcase is that as artists become more and more advanced and in the video capturing, will it totally be a live video showcase, or will it be a well-edited representation? And as we know, in the CD back in the day, someone doesn't have to play that whole song completely. They record bits and pieces and they edit everything out. How is that the most fairest representation for someone to watch? And that was the whole reason why we had the live performance showcase, so that those 15 minutes, if you can't capture them in 15, you're going to lose them in 60. And that's that's a conversation that will will be seen as time evolves. We hope it's not 2-3 years before live performance comes back. We definitely realize that most of the fall conferences are not happening at this time. Hopefully they will happen by fall of 2021, and therefore I see the questions about the good music. Do we need live audiences? I think art is a communication, and that communication is not being reproduced in this format. And yes, great music is great music, but artists need that energy from audiences. Artists need the reassurance, the communicative. Cris said it right off the top. The conference was the networking opportunity. The stage is their platform of conversation, and we do not speak one way. And even in this panel situation, we're not speaking one way, but it's still a little awkward. So that's sort of my position. And for now, it's a makeshift situation. We hope that the world prays that a vaccine will be found. And in the meantime, the virtual showcase is the platform in which we have to abide by, because there's no other ways of doing it. Will this be the case in 5 years? I think society, humanity will be in a much worse place if we're still connected through a video screen. So we all hope, that we can return to a new level of communication, a real way of communication.
Great. Alfredo, here are a few questions that I want to send your way, and I think they come from either artists or managers who are curious about what's the best way. It's the digital is the only way right now, and it's also evident that it's part of what is being showcased, because showcasing digitally also means that if the festival has a digital component, you're also getting a guarantee that the artist is fluent in the language. So check these questions out. If the band was together in a recorded showcase scenario instead of solo in a living room, would that be more bookable for as a showcase? And a more general one, but similar. How do we make sure our showcases are as good as they were before COVID?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because we are not here to judge the artistry of the performer, but the thing is that we also have to put in consideration, the actual conditions. It's no question that someone going into a recording studio and doing a pre-recording showcase is definitely going to sound much better than just being in your living room. There's no question about that. But but there are some other aspects that we have to consider. They probably will sound good just in the living room as in the recording studio. But I can mention, for example, one of the showcases or spotlights. Alcawa, for example, they did a beautiful presentation because they show some videos, live videos, where they were interacting with the audience, and they were not necessarily professionally done, but you can see that the interaction and the reaction with people, and that for me was just so beautiful and inspiring. So yeah, I even sent a message to Miriam and say, you're booked for TV Sunfest 21 because I really love, there have been some of the groups that have presented their work in a very inspirational way as well. So this COVID thing obviously has denied space for all the artists to, to isolate themselves and not. If it is a band, 5, 6, 7 people, I heard this from so many groups. For example, many of them, they just got together precisely to do a virtual showcase for a specific market or global Toronto in this case. But many of them also are afraid of saying, well, we're not prepared because we haven't played as a unit in the last several months, and we are not too secure in what we're going to show is actually what the group is all about. So all those kinds, we just did our virtual festival, and we had those kind of questions with the artists. Le Bon de Nord, which is one of the most spectacular French Quebecois group, they told us, well, we'll do this for you, but we'll do it in a very rough way because this is going to be the first time that we're going to get together in 3 months. And because we love the festival, we have a good relationship with you, we'll do it, and we did show that. Obviously, we know that the quality of the group, is quite familiar and so on. So it might be a little bit more challenging with groups that the artistic directors of festivals are not necessarily related to or known in advance. So that could be a little bit more challenging. But there is a group that and their record, their history, well, it becomes a little bit easier to digest that. So that will be perhaps one of the challenges for us as a program artistic directors, presenters, that if we're not familiar with the artists, we will have to make sure that, that whichever they could present to us, it could be, how can I say, could work for us, not necessarily that the band or the artist is not performing in the right way. No, it's just a little taste for us to see if this artist or this group is going to work for us.
Great. So here's a question that I think it's really, really interesting. And so some artists have found themselves in a position of strength by either already having the equipment to record or having experience with video. And then some artists are also in a very underprivileged situation because they live in places where internet is not as strong. They don't have access to cameras. And sometimes artists who have taken themselves who live in these situations that are so remote and so unique are sometimes some of the artists who are more powerful just by being so true to their communities, their lives, their regions, maybe more so with world music. So check this question out. Who should be in charge of creating a digital showcase? The artist, the conference, and the agent? I think it transcends into digital concerts as well, right? You have to have the means to make that happen. So how I think it goes for the three of you, because it's related to all of you. So who's in charge of creating the showcase?
It's a tough, it's a global type of question in that sense, and I think of the indigenous sector of culture here in this country, and most of those reservations don't have access to broadband, and then on the receiving side, half of Saskatchewan, northern Alberta, northern Manitoba, northern Ontario, Nunavut, parts of Yukon do not have access. They're still on dial-up. So, it's a complicated situation on both sides, both for the artists and for the recipients to attend a conference, so to speak. As far as the digital, who should be responsible, it's a very tough call. I know my colleagues are all in discussion with their artists to say we have to come up with video content. And that video content goes back to the conversation that no longer can you just sit at your instrument and play for 45 minutes. You have to become the storyteller. You have to become the actor, actress, and share the message through a new medium. The video, as one of my clients who did a live stream said, it's almost the worst of both situation. You're playing a live concert with no audience, so that energy isn't there, but you're recording it, but you don't get a second chance to do a second edit. So it's a very complicated situation. Thank you for your support, Chris, and all of you know. As far as the opportunity to create a digital showcase, right now the concern exceeds that of finishing a product. We have artists, many of us are not feeling safe to get onto an airplane. Therefore, we have to do the digital product within our community, within our house. It's an unlevel playing field at that point. As you say, some are very privileged with very high-end equipment. Some only have their iPhones and a Blue Note or a Snowflake microphone slapped onto it. These are new expenses of conferences that they were not prepared for. To offer artists who are selected an opportunity to go into an audio video, studio to record, and also artists are coming from the fourth largest geographic territory of country. It's what Prince Rupert has in British Columbia might not be what's London, Ontario, what Halifax would have as far as availability. So that is the quality on a level playing field, and that's the challenge for conferences. Whereas Global Toronto sort of gave that responsibility to the artists to create their own.
Chris, so when you go to a showcase, the conference normally is very proud to say you're going to have really good sound, you're going to have a really good engineer, you can bring yours if you want, but you don't have to. When you go to a big festival, you have amazing equipment. So now you don't even have your road manager with you. You are at home. It's not really safe to let people in. And then you have maybe your manager or your booker saying, "Hey, congratulations, we have a show. It needs to look amazing. Good luck." And so is the videographer the new sound engineer or the new band member, or is the artist in a situation to learn? How do you take it personally? I'm sure it's a lot to take in, and what do you think is the way?
I think the videographer is an excellent tool, but they're expensive, right? And we want to pay the people that we work with effectively so we get a good product. The same with my musicians that I work with. I pay them well, so we all work really, really hard. So I do think there's some questions here about, is it better to maybe go into a studio or go into actually something like Lula Lounge to do, or Small World to do a concert pre-recorded. I think the pre-recorded concert altogether is amazing. I've done a few of those at home, but it's like definitely a lot more expensive. So, and here's the other thing is like, you're not actually getting paid. The payment right now is all over the place. Like for what live streaming you're doing, it's like literally all over the place, and it's up to you if you want to take it or not. But it's like, I think like the way I'm kind of gauging it is depending on the pay scale and what I can do with what they can offer, you know? And it's like, this is like, now we're like talking about like showcasing is like actually like every time you go on the internet now is like a showcase for anyone. And then the whole thing that I know my agent is definitely talking about is who owns the digital product after it's done, and the rights to your live stream internet. Like with NEC, they've put everything up on their website. Like it's a super cool opportunity, but then it's also like there for life. And it was my very first live stream, and I have to say it was not my best work. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And now this live stream that I thought was like a one-time deal is like there for forever, and that's like a whole different, you know, ball game.
Yeah, Alfredo, for you, how do you feel about the technology aspect and the responsibility, and also it's a moment that is like it's tough for everybody, right? Because there's definitely less activity, and the activity there is on the festivals end. Festivals also are not perceiving their income, you know, either because it's a new format, or for those who sell tickets, they can't sell tickets, and so how does it affect on your end, and how does it relate to technology and infrastructure?
Yeah, I think this particular time is giving us the chance to come together as a community. You know, for example, in the virtual festival that we did, there were some artists that say, you know, what you're offering us is not enough, because we need to rent a camera, we need to, you know, get some kind of technical, you know, instruments that they needed for the recording, and say, well, you know what, we'll cover those expenses. You know, this is the base of, you know, because more than a fee, it was more like a contribution from the festival, because, you know, financially speaking, we also have to recognize that, you know, it's very tough for both, for the artist and for us as well, because in our case, you know, it is difficult really to charge. You know, I don't know if there has been any presenter, any festival that has been successful in selling tickets for virtual festivals at this moment. But in our case, the festival always has been free and accessible to everyone, and we couldn't go back to the opposite way and start charging admission now that this is the way that we should support each other. So I think it's a kind of a compromise between the artist and the presenter in this case. Okay, well, let's support each other. You know, we'll do our best in giving you, you know, the best possible fee that we can, you know, and we'll support you in the technical aspect as well. And I think it's possible to do that, you know. But again, it has to be we have to understand each other that, you know, the financial conditions at this moment for all of us are very difficult. We truly think that we will continue doing virtual things until we actually can, because, you know, if things don't change in 6-7 months, I don't know if we're going to be able to continue doing this, because we probably won't have the resources in place. At the time that we cancel we have to postpone the festival, 50-60% of our total revenue were completely lost. So now we are juggling with the little resources that we had. Luckily enough, our financial sponsor, it kept their money with us, and we continue doing this. And because, you know, we do more than the festival. We do a regular seasonal concerts all year round. But yeah, there is no question that we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. But I think if the artist and the presenter in this case, we can support each other in ways that all of us can continue doing what we love. I think I see that as the perfect formula in this moment. These are the times that really need to bring us, all of us together, and this is the way that we can support each other.
Yes.
There was a question. There was a question earlier about how can we prepare a showcase like that in advance of COVID. There was a question that rolled through earlier. I would always remind my artists who are fortunate to be selected for showcasing that at any given time you can play 15 minutes, but this is not a performance of that sort. My advice to any artists emerging and who have not seen the situation to attend a conference to see how these 15-minute performances are made, and like everything else, practice it, practice the talking, assume that there will be people clapping between pieces. 15 minutes is not when you pull out your CD and say, oh, there's 4 minutes 44 seconds, 5 minutes and 3 seconds, and 5 minutes and 2 seconds. I've got my 15. You have to, as Alfredo said, as Cris said, you need to communicate and connect within those 15 minutes. So you have to practice your talking. You have to practice your visual, how you're going to approach walking on stage. You have to figure out between your band members who's going to do the announcing, who's going to introduce the band members, all of these things. And I've been to conferences, more so in the United States, who are so strict on the 15-minute, the 12-minute, the 10-minute time that they turn off the power to your PA system at 10 or at 15. So if you played really well and the audience claps longer and you can't start the final piece, that you have to factor all of these things in. So it's a very high pressure 15 minutes that is not something that you take casually. Have that egg timer in your studio, in your rehearsal space, put it on 15. Some musicians go as far as scripting what they are going to share on stage, even the jokes that they are going to share, and assume that if you're going to tell a joke that the audience is going to laugh. And that's going to take 15 seconds. If you tell 3 jokes, that's almost 1 minute gone from your 15. So that's my advice when I work with artists, that you have to take that into consideration, because as a sign of respect for other musicians, you do not go over your time. That's one of the most disrespectful. And presenters see it, festival programmers see it. When everyone sees that red light flag going, you just started your final song, it's not received well. So hopefully that answered one of the questions from our registrants.
Yeah. We have only 10 minutes left. There are some really interesting questions popping up, but some of them go to places that I think are worth chatting, but are not really related to showcasing. So I'm going to prioritize with the WHYCASE question. So the pandemic is at different stages in different places, right? Some countries are looking worse than ever. Some are pretending they are already done, and some have lived through the process 2 or 3 times of saying we're done, no, we're not, we're done, no, we're not. WHYCASE, it's a pretty big conference for world music, and they were one of the very few that this year said we're doing it, and I think it had a positive reaction in Europe, and then maybe not so positive or more frightened reaction in America in general, where things were really far, and saying yes, I'm going takes an 8-hour risk back and forth, plus the being at the conference. So the question is, if selected, should an artist accept a showcase at WHYCASE or whatever conference? What would be your advice for an artist who's invited to do a showcase in a year like this? a live one, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think it's if you were selected to showcase a WHYCASE this year, well, it's good for you. But the question is, are people going to be there? Because at this moment, especially as you Juan mentioned, Europeans perhaps will be the most that will attend. Well, they usually are the most that attend the conference, but people in this continent, on the African continent, and the Asian continent, it will be truly impossible. I just checked their numbers, registrations, a couple of days ago, and there were only over 200 people registered. And at this time, usually there is 1,500 people registered. And I'm not quite sure how feasible that's going to be. At all the festivals and presenters in those parts of the world, we are struggling with financial resources and going into making that extra expense. We as a Sunfest, we usually take 6-7 people, of our own team to WHYCASE. This year, that would be absolutely impossible. So how beneficial for an artist that has been selected to showcase at WHYCASE at this time would be? That's a big question, because, if you are not showcasing for anyone, I don't know how you can justify, that investment into that. I applaud, the efforts of WHYCASE in trying to make it work. I personally feel that it's going to be very challenging. In Europe, the cases are emerging again, and in places like France, Spain, Italy. So who knows what's going to happen? But again, independently from that, at this moment, who knows if it is beneficial or not for the artist to showcase or to go to WHYCASE at this moment, because the numbers, as I said, are extremely, extremely low. And again, all of us are struggling with financial resources. I also wanted to address that was for me with regards to the virtual festival that we did, and they were asking, if we can share how much money we collected in donations. Just in general terms, we collected about 25% of what we usually collect in donations at the festival. So it wasn't that great, it wasn't that bad either, but nothing in comparison to what we usually collect in the actual festival.
Cris, you were gonna jump into that one.
Yeah, to WHYCASE, I think it's a physical risk to the artist to be going. And I think the artist needs to really, really consider what is important to them at the moment. Like, I really don't think catching a really, really bad virus is worth maybe getting some work next year. We're all going to be in the same boat next year. We're all in this together, quote unquote. But sorry, we're all in this together, quote unquote. But it's a physical risk to the artist to be going all the way over to Europe right now. Let's go to Porto,
Yeah. So
and
I
also,
think there's something. Oh, go.
Oh, and also the number of cancellations. If you just base it on mathematical probability, Alfredo canceled his festival with some promises of postponements. Therefore, festivals around the world have X percentage of their season, their next season, already booked. So, yes, a decrease in registration to from 1,500 to 200, and then of those 200, how many of those 200 already have 50% of their season booked because of postponement? And so, and then to add what Cris said, if I live in a house that has my father in it who's 81 years old, would I risk 16 hours on a flight? That's a personal question. So I'm totally with my co-panelists.
Yeah. So we have very few minutes left. I think it's looking at the positive side of things. It's also a moment where artists have the opportunity to freely showcase, even without an invitation, right? Making a point of everyone's looking at screens. It's my moment. I'm going to take my moment, and also for those who have a formal opportunity or a formal invitation to digitally showcase at a conference, if you can take maybe 1 minute each, so we use this last minutes for that. What are the factors that are both equally positive or still the root of a showcase that will survive the live format and the digital format? What are the ingredients of a fantastic showcase that would survive both scenarios?
Like Andrew said, practicing ahead of time exactly how your 10 minutes is going to work online. Even doing a full practice, because often like Facebook will have, you can fully do a full practice that nobody can see. So making sure that your equipment works, making sure that you have good equipment. And the other thing to consider is this is a great year to apply for all of those grants and to create new music and to really start to go see where you want to go next and take that step.
Andrew,
the same, yep, the same effort that we once held in the production of your CD, we take that same attitude and walk into video cameras and the same efforts that need to focus and as I already said, practice it, rehearse it. And this is the new press kit that we once used to stuff into a presentation folder and mail. This is your new calling card. Are these 15-20 minute introductory videos that have to capture your narrative, your story, your music, your personality, and on top of it all, you also have to look great. You know, it's part of being a visual society that COVID has tossed us into. You know, 15 years ago we would not have video conferencing. Today we do. So that's all part and parcel of what's moving ahead for us.
Yeah, Alfredo.
I will only add to what Cris and Andrew have said. To the artists, be perseverant, be strong, don't dismay, because all of us are in this together, and together we will overcome all these challenges ahead of us.
Well, Cris, Andrew, Alfredo, I want to thank you for finding this time today and sharing such valuable information. I also want to thank Global Toronto for creating this digital space for us to come together, as you say. And I think it was a really fantastic time and opportunity. And I am thankful for the opportunity of being here and for hearing your voices and for hearing each other. Yeah.
Thank you, Juan, for keeping us in order and shape. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A warm hug. Que viva la toalla.